Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Sana Mahmood with you at B2B World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important stories. The first is in reference to the foreign minister's visit to China, in which, of course, multiple engagements with regards to the foreign ministers summit is being spoken about. And then, of course, trade and investment is also high on the agenda, where the foreign minister has also met with the finance minister of China and speaking about CPEC has highlighted various issues with regards to what exactly is going to be the way forward and how Pakistan has advanced on this front and what sort of measures are going to be taken in now that phase 2 of the project is started, and where else can Pakistan and China actually move forward in terms of trade and investment, particularly in the positive trajectory as set by the Chinese finance minister that Pakistan is currently continuing on, given the positive indicators of the economy as well as, of course, our current engagements with the IMF as well and future plans after, of course, the government has been in order. We're going to be exploring what this particular visit would actually mean in terms of business transactions on ground and how the ease of doing business, particularly under the CPEC projects, are going to be further enhanced post this visit. That is going to be our focus in the first segment of the show today. In our next one, we're going to be taking a look at what is happening in Gaza. Unfortunately, since October, the bombing and the genocide has not stopped, and we've seen that the Israeli forces have expanded to other parts of Gaza, including northern Gaza and also in Rafah, where unfortunately the attack continues and many innocent civilians have been added to the thousands who have already lost their lives. And then, of course, there is the continuing debate with regards to Israeli forces claiming that they're targeting Hamas and that they're making sure that any sort of presence of this group does not exist, and that they're actually being successful in terms of breaking down this group. Whether or not these claims are actually real, it is irrelevant in light of the kind of lives that we have seen being lost in terms of this genocide and what is going on in Gaza. So we're going to be exploring this in further detail as to where this trajectory is moving forward and what needs to be done about it. For this and more, as always in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farooq Badafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by former ambassador Mr. G.R. Baloch. Thank you very much, Baloch, for joining us and being part of the discussion. Before we continue on with our discussion regarding China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and other projects, including, of course, various discussions that Mr. Sardar has had on the sidelines of his visit, let's take a look at what he said on one such occasion.
We have now discussed the phase 2 of this project, having completed successfully phase 1 before the COVID. Being basically an agri-economy, we have a great scope in agriculture. Mines and minerals and the IT, information technology, are the other two prime areas where there's a great scope to do business in Pakistan. The original concept of CPEC was that once CPEC phase 1 would be complete, we would have a special economic zone set up on the CPEC route, and that is now being pushed with great speed. Pakistan offers, attractive, competitive fiscal and other incentives for the overseas business leaders who wish to set up businesses in Pakistan. The location of Pakistan being at the crossroads of Central Asia, South Asia, and Middle East provides a great potential for the export-oriented industry to be set up in Pakistan and do your value addition, and then you can export to all these markets which.
Well, you heard what the foreign minister has had to say in a number of occasions and meetings that he has had on the sidelines of the summit in China, and of course with regards to the emphasis being laid on CPEC projects moving forward. Ambassador Baloch, we'll just start off with you with reference to where we stand today in terms of our relationship with China, particularly in terms of the fundamental economic situation that we've seen continue for quite some time now in Pakistan, and how this has impacted our relationship with China. Trade and investment, of course, seems to be high on the agenda in terms of building this relationship further, especially, of course, in light of the CPEC project and the phase 2 that Mr. Sardar was just referring to. Where do you think we're currently on this particular trajectory, and what sort of indications have you observed, particularly during this visit, that point towards the future direction that Pakistan-China economic relations are going to take?
Thank you, Sana, for taking me on your show. In fact, today, interestingly, I'm returning from a very good seminar that we held in Karachi. It was organized by the Chinese Consul General, and it was to commemorate the 73 years of diplomatic relations between Pakistan, the establishment of diplomatic relations between Pakistan and China. So it was a very interesting kind of seminar where several experts they spoke about the history, about the political convergencies, about the nature of relationship that we have with China. We, of course, we always say that higher than Himalayas, sweeter than honey, and deeper than ocean. But now those metaphors are to be implemented and actually converted into practical cooperative initiatives. And I think CPAC was a great initiative, and we are lucky to be part of that great Belt and Road Initiative, and CPAC is part of that. It's very heartening to see that on the 73rd anniversary of diplomatic relations, we are now sort of discussing CPAC Phase 2, and our Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister's visit is in that regard. I think it's a strategic dialogue that the two foreign ministries have it, where they review the whatever has been achieved, and particularly in CPAC projects, and now how to go to the next level. In fact, it was very, again, gratifying to hear the Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister of China to say that now we will add further quality to the next phase of CPAC. And I think Pakistan, with its like numerous economic challenges, challenges of course, development, challenges of burgeoning population, needs, in fact, a strategy of fast forward when it comes to economic development, when it comes to industrialization, when it comes to alternate energy, when it comes to using our solar energy, our wind energy, and of course, use of our natural endowment, that is agriculture, fertile land, and of course, mines and minerals. So we just heard our foreign minister, in fact, underline these very areas in which I think we look forward to cooperating with China and collaborating in various projects. So I think I'm very hopeful. I'm very kind of optimistic that the momentum of CPAC, which was kind of slowed down in the past 2 years or so, is again picking up. And it looks like the entire government seemed to be again geared up to really take full advantage of CPAC, which is a great initiative. And I'm sure we all know that 150 probably countries are now, or maybe more, part of this Belt and Road initiative. And the total investment goes into trillions of dollars. And CPAC is an important segment of that. So it will not be acceptable by any patriotic Pakistani that by any excuse we cannot take advantage of this great initiative, which can mutually be taken by Pakistan and China. So let's hope, and I'm pretty confident that with this enthusiasm with which our government is approaching CPAC, we will see a qualitative change, and really the fruits will start coming in for the common man, for the common citizens of Pakistan. Yes, Sana.
Ambassador, especially with regards to where we stand with the IMF today and what the current economic indicators are, what exactly do you think will be the impact that this will have on the future course of action with trade and investment ties with China, with more businesses coming to China, more investment coming to Pakistan, and also with regards to the phase 2 of the CPAC project, how much do you think will the way that our negotiations are going to go ahead with the IMF will have an impact on this?
Because we have very special relationship with China. So China, even in our worst of the West situations, never tied up their assistance, whether it was putting in some money to help us weather that a very difficult situation when we did not have the foreign currency, when their state bank put in some billions in our. They do not look up at IMF. Obviously, if we are able to, and whenever we are able to sign an agreement with IMF, it does help in terms of strengthening the confidence of the investors, obviously including the investors from China, because there are the majority of the investment, that is what the vision is, should come from the private sector of China, and likewise we should have also, as is being also said by our new finance minister, that the government would be sitting back and giving kind of structures, policies, but let the private sector do it. So I always been advocating that our private sector should be now engaged into CPAC. They should get engaged with their counterparts in China and let literally the private sector take the lead even in implementing the second phase of CPAC. I hope somebody is listening to me, and if they are already doing it, I'll be very happy. And if they aren't, please do look at it, that the government should give the only framework, the policies, the two governments should give facilitation, and let the private sector, the two countries, take over the lead and implement those mutually beneficial projects and proposals which are there part of the CPAC. Yes,
Faisal, given the circumstances that we're currently in, especially in terms of the way that we want to move ahead with the successful engagement of CPEC Phase 2 as well, there are, of course, a lot of concerns that previously also Pakistan has addressed regarding, of course, security challenges that we have within the country. And again, Pakistan's fight against terrorism is continuing. What exactly will be the way forward, especially in terms of the assurances that need to be provided under CPEC, or the increased security circumstances that we need to ensure that this goes on? And then, of course, with regards to spoilers, who, of course, have been previously against CPEC as well, can continue to be so. Given that Pakistan is moving towards a better trajectory, it seems that the likelihood of that increases. So what's our strategy on that?
Yes, and obviously when we talk about our bilateral relations with China, we only need to cement them further. Reason being, if we talk about the spoilers, especially our eastern neighbor India, we shouldn't be forgetting that right now India considers China and Pakistan as equal threats to them, and of course it is posing a threat to both of them in that context. I remember 3 years ago when I think Galwan incident took place. During that incident, I was sitting in one of the shows and I said that when would you go to Chinese border and reply them whatever has happened to you, and the reply I got from them, it was that whatever happens to us in the mountains we'll do in the seas. Of course he meant Gwadar, of course he meant CPEC, of course he meant the investments of the Chinese. So time and again they have been reiterating that China and Pakistan, both of them, they are equally an enemy to India itself. So in that context, I think both of the countries, Pakistan and China, further need to cement the existing relations. As I was listening to Honorable G.R. Baloch, he has rightly pointed out that we are heading towards the next phase of it. I think this phase is pivotal when it comes to Pakistan's relations with China. Why I say this? Because IT is being explored more, emerging technologies, artificial intelligence, the intelligentsia sharing, reason being the tech transfer, and all of these things, they matter a lot in modern times. And I believe as we are seeing that the next phase is starting up right now, there are challenges, security related challenges, and then there are of course constant threat from our western border as well, which is initially being nurtured by our eastern neighbor India. Then what we need to do is continue doing what we are doing, reason being what our enemies want us to stop doing, we shouldn't be stopped here, and we should continue doing that. And further cooperation in the field of IT, in the field of business, and I like the idea of involving the private sectors as well. Private sector, when you involve the private sector, it actually brings a soothing effect for the whole of the population. Reason being, the private sector is always there where you can't see sort of the government sector's existence, and private sector is of different sizes when we talk about the private sectors. So in them sectors, when the cooperation is being extended, and them private sectors are in touch and in collaboration with the Chinese companies and Chinese businesses, I think it would bring fruits for right on the grassroots level, and I think this is how it should be. And furthermore, that as we saw that a couple of years ago, probably January last year, I must say, China increases bilateral trade with Russia. Used to be $116 billion per annum, and they increased it to $200 billion. This is the time that Pakistan and China should further increase the bilateral trade between both of the countries. The trade should be increased in a way where the opportunities for Pakistan are created as well, because there are several sectors where we excel, and of course China agrees with us that we excel in them sectors. Of course, when it comes to bilateral trade, increasing the bilateral trade, that them sectors should be given sort of priorities. And if there is some kind of requirements in terms of enhancing our capabilities in terms of production, that we always can gain from China itself. We can learn from China itself, because China is a country that is always been considered throughout the world as the most recent example of excelling in terms of economy, excelling in terms of productions, and the way they are increasing their production year by year, and sort of exporting throughout the world, including the Western world that actually stands against them.
Right.
There is a lot to learn from China, and I think in the same manner we can learn a lot from China, and we can move on.
Right, but Faisal, my question with regards to terrorism remains, and especially in terms of security for the CPEC project.
Yeah, regarding security, of course there are few challenges that are originally erupting from within Afghanistan. We know recently China was of course in contact with the Taliban regime there, because they have concerns as well. They are already working on a Wuhan corridor, and they want to interlink CPEC with the Central Asian republics, which would be extra fact for Pakistan as well. Then at the same time, I believe they have a sort of in touch. They are in touch with the Taliban regime. I think Pakistan needs to sit with both of the countries, China and Afghanistan. As we saw that in the previous government, we had one of the examples, that Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto, he actually sat with the foreign ministers of both of the countries in Islamabad, and then that summit took place, and of course the same concerns were addressed to at that time. We need to do it once more, and we need to draw the parameters that how to work it out, how to of course counter this menace which is being originating from within Afghanistan. I mean, Bisham attack and all of these recent attacks, if we take them back to where it originates from, it is Afghanistan it is originating from. And I think this challenge, it needs to be talked about once more by all of the three countries, and parameters should be drawn to of course counter that.
Right, absolutely. Farooq, with reference to the situation at the moment, particularly when we talk about both the economic and the security challenges, and the fact that Pakistan and China, of course, have enjoyed a strong historic partnership. I want to understand then that given the current changing dynamics and the way that we're moving on with the new phase of the CPEC project, and the discussions and scenarios at home with both economy and security and the new government coming in, what sort of action points further can be expected or can be hoped for from a friend like China? What sort of actions and correspondence or future interactions are we hoping for given the current scenario? Will it be any different than what we've seen previously? Can we hope for a trajectory that is more than before? And if yes, then what more can be done that is not already being done?
Right, Sana, thank you very much for the question. I think that one lesson of history is that whenever Pakistan and China work together, they always benefit out of this cooperation, and that has continued to happen constantly, despite this mind-bogglingly different political systems that the two countries have. China has never tried to export its political system or economic system to Pakistan, nor has Pakistan done anything of the sort, and both have actually worked in tandem. So that actually plots a trajectory that keeps going up, and that will continue. But earlier you were talking about a couple of important things that merited some kind of discussion. For example, you spoke about spoilers. I think that we shouldn't be too worried about the spoilers, especially when you talk about the eastern neighbor being a spoiler. That issue is going to settle down one way or the other.
Okay.
There is an election going on in India. We know if Narendra Modi wins, and perhaps that is why he might be facing some turbulence, that he wants to actually, he has a plan, he wants to actually build bridges with both China and Pakistan. Then through that he wants to get a UNSC seat and eventually retire at 75 with a Nobel Peace Prize. So with that kind of an ambition, I think that in coming days neither China nor Pakistan will be expecting too much sabotage from China, from India, nor I think that there would be any such pressure if Modi goes away and somebody else comes. Now in Afghanistan, of course, we keep on talking about Afghanistan, but the fact is that recently, especially after Peshawar, we have actually further worked to ensure that there is joint or a partnership on security issues as well regarding these issues. Because Pakistan knows that terrorism is an existential issue, it is fighting it. We have even raised a division, a special force to actually take care of this matter. So I think that in coming days, security will be taken care of. Now the CPEC itself, the second round, was essentially about ensuring that Pakistan produces more. Remember that both the countries have an FTA, but most of the time this trade between the two countries has been a one-way dialogue, that we end up importing from China. We don't have the kind of competitive edge. I don't know if Faisal was talking about our expertise. I don't know what sectors he was thinking about. But we have seen that because China has become really a rich economy, they have attracted a lot of bidders for every kind of imports. So Pakistan hasn't been able to capitalize on that. But with China's help, we will be able to actually develop the SEZs, special economic zones, and then also invest in agriculture as well to ensure we have the kind of product that will be needed by the Chinese market. Now there are 2 or 3 aspects that are important to understand here. In the past, Pakistan's systemic bottlenecks were a huge problem. Pakistan had a huge problem in terms of bureaucracy, that any business that had to come to Pakistan had to go through 24, 25 windows. Now Pakistan, thanks to SIFC, has taken care of that. Pakistan has also, because army is also included, and it has come up with the LIMS system for agriculture. So because of that, Pakistan has better understanding of its own internal systems, agriculture and all. So if CPEC moves further, we will be able to produce better results in industrial aspect as well as agriculture. So this is all about it, and I hope that in coming days, Pakistan's economy, which by the way, very graciously, the Chinese finance minister actually pointed out that the trajectory is good, appreciated. I think that that is going to be really picking up, and Pakistan will get out of its economic troubles.
Yeah, Sana, I just wanted to mention there are certain areas like in the medical field, surgical equipments, they are excelled. I mean, throughout the world, and I actually met with one of the exporters from Sialkot. They are, of course, exporting it to even to China as well. I mean, Latin American countries and Western countries, and all of these surgical equipments. Of course, they are disposable surgical equipments, and they are a sort of part and parcel of all of the health services, and even including China as well. So China believes that Pakistan has excelled in that, and of course Pakistan is preferred for importing from there.
Right.
Second one is of course sports goods, and if we talk about the cutlery and all of these things, of course Pakistan is at the top. And when it comes to, of course, our salt range, Himalayan salt, we have a lot to offer it to
that is true.
China and all.
And I'm sure that Sana, you have to go to ambassador. But my humble submission is, of course, Pakistan has exports, and that's why our economy keeps on moving forward. But when it comes to competition in Chinese market, and then also things like panda bonds there, Pakistan has to actually go for value addition that we have been actually lacking in, because this age is of transformation of the economy. So what China is going to do is help us in adding that value that ensures that our products are customized to their local demand or needs.
Excellent.
Right. Ambassador Saab, there is of course also concern in terms of what will be the move ahead given the different businesses or investors within China moving ahead, especially in terms of what we're trying to achieve for quite some time now, which is the ease of doing business. And of course, the SIFC was also created for this particular purpose. Do you see any difference in terms of the engagement that we can have beyond the CPEC and have more FDIs from China coming in order to help with the current financial needs of the country, and then also with regards to the kind of issues that Pakistan need to resolve, particularly when it comes to debt issues that Pakistan needs to resolve? Can there be increased help on that front?
See, whenever we think about Pakistan-China economic relations, I don't know why there is only one aspect which we keep discussing again and again and again and again, that is whether the investment will come from China or not. While we ignore the very fact that China has world's biggest now middle class. It's about 700 million people are now in the middle class. And they have lots of money and they want to spend. I'm sure you know that before the COVID, Chinese had the biggest number of people who were touring and going out to tourism, for the tourism. Likewise, you go to Beijing or any of these capital cities and you'll find all brands. So there is a kind of consumption of the middle class which has come there. So it's all there for our people to grab. Why can't we have brands, the Chanwan or others, go and capture the Chinese market? So easy, so close. We only are dependent on European markets, which are subject to different political events and so on and so forth, or the US market, which extracts its own political price from us. So my emphasis is that let loose your private sector, encourage them, even if you have to push them, put them into a plane and tell them go into these 10 provinces of China and get the orders done and come and produce those 1 or 2 or 10 items that we need to eat. What I'm trying to say is that our private sector must target those 700 million
Absolutely. Ambassador Saab, we'll have to go to a short break, but I'll come back and continue the discussion. Welcome back to the debate. We're talking about China-Pakistan relations and, of course, moving forward with trade and investment ties. And Ambassador Saab, before the break, you were talking about the possibilities of Pakistani business also going to China. Would you care to elaborate further?
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that we have the potential. We have the basic fundamentals. We need to just broaden it. So I think that as part of our even CPEC, if possible, those businesses which have the potential to penetrate into the Chinese market, targeting especially those, let them be helped. Help in terms of facilitation, help in terms of transportation, help in terms of getting raw material, getting some surveys. So I think the facilitation role of the government should play a proactive role. Of course, the Trade Development Corporation, TDPA authority, that must play a proactive role in getting our private sector engaged into the Chinese market. Let them see what Pakistan can do, not only surgical, but there are several other items which can be obviously surgical. We have a historical strength in that, but let the base be broadened, let the companies be multiplied so that they can meet the requirement of this huge market. So we have this huge market lying next door. So I think there has to be a multiple direction from where we can approach Pakistan-China economic relations. One is to have our own exports diverted to China from other markets or along with those other markets. Second is to have the Chinese to invest it, and why not some joint ventures, even Pakistanis to go to China. I mean, because we learn. In fact, in one of your programs, or some other gentleman or lady, I had said that what we should do, some of our executives, engineers, and entrepreneurs should send their senior people to go and be embedded with the successful business enterprises in China. Let them stay for 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks of observation and internship. That how do they do that? Like quality control, like the supply chains. How do they do that? What goes on the floors in the factories of China that China has emerged that big? So I think we have to really unwrap the secret of Chinese success. Not only that, Chinese have brought more than 500 million people out of poverty. I'm sure you know that 50% of our, unfortunately, 11 million people are, they are 110 million, in fact, are under poverty, like at least reaching poverty in Pakistan after these crises. So we have to learn how to alleviate poverty. Like, again, we have about 25 million children out of school. Let's learn from China. How did they make it possible? Of course, solutions will be our own, which will be homegrown, but definitely a lot of lessons can be learned. Are the public health, how did they approach it? Research into vaccines, for example. So I think we have to break new grounds, Sana. Only then I think the real potential of Pakistan-China can play a role in what I said, fast forward movement of Pakistan. We cannot just be slow. We have to really move fast and fast forward our march.
Right, absolutely understand. That's the end of our first segment, and of course much remains to be seen as to how we'll explore this further. But what we're going to do now is focus our attention on what's happening in Gaza for quite some time now, and of course as the Israeli genocide continues in the area. Ambassador Saab, you know of course how the Israeli attacks have now spread out to other areas, including Rafah and including northern Gaza as well. And while of course this is being done with of course so-called targeting Hamas group, we've seen that thousands of Palestinians, including women and children, have lost their lives and continue to do so, and there's really no safe place left for the Palestinians. Where exactly do you think this particular issue it currently stands within the international community as to how they're viewing it? Are they looking at it from the Israeli perspective in terms of targeting Hamas, or are they understanding what the larger perhaps international community has been protesting about in terms of the suffering of the people of Palestine?
And Ambassador Baloch, if you can allow me to ask a question as well related to it, and that is, if United Nations can send its peace troops in Darfur, if it can send its peace troops in East Timor and search for the resolutions, why can't they do the same in Kashmir and in Palestine? Especially in this case, why not Gaza? They could send their peace troops who could maintain peace, and whatever the sort of communication would have been done with the Gaza administration, that should have been done through of course UN troops rather than simply indiscriminate bombings.
First of all, when you put me in a dilemma, I was in that state of mind to really be talking about the future of Pakistan-China relations. But now, when we divert and look at Gaza, it's all gloom, it's all tears, it's all blood that we see, all those bodies that we see wrapped, small babies. My God, I can't. You and me, all of us, really would be seeing those on the televisions. The words cannot describe what's happening with the Palestinians. In fact, I've been saying it and I say it again, that this is the blackest chapter of the human history, not only of the Middle East, of the world, but human history. This kind of a carnage might have taken place maybe hundreds of years back when humans were not civilized. But in so-called 21st century, when we are all civilized, we see it happening every minute. What was that? I think every 2 minutes or every 5 minutes, a child dies in Gaza. So that is the kind of situation where we stand, and contrast to that, the moral bankruptcy of the international community, the complete debasement of the normal rules of human behavior. The international law is pretty far. What we are saying that please follow the human values. Let's not move away from being not humans. Of course, that the Zionist Israeli minister said that these are human animals, unfortunately, in a derogatory way to the Palestinians. But how does one describe the Israeli killing machine when it kills innocent people right in a hospital, buries them into those mass graves? So I think it's a mass, at a mass level, genocide. It's a mass violation of the human rights, which obviously historian is writing day by day. But like every minute that it happens, yet I think the world is silent. Silent in the sense that effectively it's not doing, but since there are some still countries with some kind of a moral courage to go, so I must appreciate again South Africa, which has again gone on to ICJ to appeal that Israel must be stopped from going on with its present carnage in Rafah. So I think the situation
How exactly will Israel be stopped? Ambassador Saab, how are we going to achieve that?
That will require really a very, very firm stance from the Arab world on the top, the Muslim world, and the international community. I think there is a summit, I think in Bahrain. I think it's on, or I think it's on today, or it started yesterday. They must come up with tangible ABC, that if it does not happen, what will they do? Of course, we cannot dictate, they are all independent nations, but I expect to see that such a strong, doable, actionable resolutions come in, not just the words or the platitude that has been coming up from all these forums. And I think we should, all the international community and all that intelligentsia, the political leaders, the universities, every one of us should emphasize the UN resolution must be implemented, the carnage must come to a stop, genocide must be stopped, and those responsible must be held responsible. Yes.
Ambassador Baloch, as one of the speech I actually went through from Turkey, it said that, of course, Turkey's president, I'm talking about, his speech, Erdogan's speech, in which he said that, of course, it is part of the project Greater Israel, do you think so that it is a part of a greater Israel project, which is being, of course, carried out by Likud and, of course, under the tyranny of Netanyahu?
I think they have this dream. Netanyahu has been in office for the fourth term, and his gimmick was to sort of sell this fallacy that he will be able to eliminate Palestinians as an identity, and that the future of Palestinian state, which they think he will once for all completely eliminate it or deface it. So I think that remains a dream of all the extremists in Israel. There is, of course, tiny minority of the Jewish community in Israel and outside, which believes that the Palestinians must be given the right of a state as enshrined in the original UN resolution under which the Israeli state was established. But I think that's what they want to achieve. But it is a dream, it's a pipe dream, it cannot be achieved. People's will, people's aspirations cannot be eliminated forever. If they can invoke the nationhood after so-called 3,000 years of a hypothetical state, how can they expect that a current population which has been living there for the last 2, 3, 4, 500 years will give up its claim to statehood? So I think the very fact of thinking of denying
Ashkenazis, especially the Ashkenazis.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely. Thank you
What do
very
you
much,
have against
Ambassador.
Ashkenazis, by the
Thank
way?
you very much, Ambassador Saab, for joining us and being a part of the discussion for today's show. Farooq, the ambassador, of course, has been talking about a solution, but in terms of where we see the current situation and how, since October, we've seen the suffering increase, it seems that despite the kind of increase in international protests that we've seen, we aren't really close to any sort of resolution or end to this suffering. So what exactly is it that he's also addressing to, or the kind of measures or action points that can be taken which are already not? Does it not already mean that whatever action plans could have happened just did not happen and that there was no
Right.
will to do it?
I think that you're right. A lot could have been done, and that was not done. And earlier, I was asking Faisal this second or third time he has actually brought up Ashkenazis. So I wanted to know what does he have against them. I think that he's a big fan of Haridis, perhaps. But
No,
regardless-
actually, Ashkenazis,
Yeah.
Ashkenazis, they are not,
Dude, that was a rhetorical question. Allow me to actually
Torah
fin-
Jews, they claim that they are not Jews at all.
Okay, I don't want to actually get into a religion and then decide on their behalf who is real and who is not. My humble submission is this is second time in this program that I am bringing up lessons of history.
Yeah.
One lesson of history is that whether there is any kind of tyranny or there is any kind of peace, nothing lasts forever. That is the only hope that we see right now. If you remember, Gandhiji used to have a favorite poem that he used to recite to encourage people to recite, and it was P.B. Shelley's Mask of Anarchy. So there it was mentioned that if the oppressor comes and he attacks, keep standing, keep waiting, and there will be a time when he goes back shamefacedly, right? At this moment, I think that we don't seem to have any kind of correction button, reset button in Israel. And this is why I think whatever Netanyahu is doing is dooming his own country, because eventually these things actually come to surface and they are actually noticed by international system in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Right.
But then the future of that country is doomed. But for now, the only fact is that the entire Committee of Nations has failed to do anything at all in
Right.
this context.
Absolutely, and that's of course really, really tragic and unfortunate, but we hope that changes. Thank you, Farooq, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us and being part of the discussion. That's all that we have for the debate. We'll now see you tomorrow.